Hi, this is a demo of the Stories module in my organizational operating system I'm building in Coda. This module allows users to build stories about their organizations, allows organizations to facilitate knowledge documentation and transfer. It specifically can assist with developing customer profiles, research, processes, and their continuous improvement. It can help people develop agreements and make decision documents. It can help people build out their perspectives on an aspect of the organization, career roadmaps, documenting meetings, even something as specific as Glassdoor customer reviews and analysis. So how does it do this? Through two main features. One is stories, the other is story fragments. So stories are the overall, as it says, narrative or story that the user or author is trying to, the perspective they're trying to communicate. When story fragments are the small pieces that you might collect, an individual customer review, reflection that somebody had. So those individual pieces of information that are scattered across the organization are aggregated up to the level of the story. So this is the initial view of the organizational stories. Stories can be built out by selecting a story type. You can see the ones that I've pre-populated here, but to look at them in a little bit more detail, we go over to story types, and you can add your own story types or amend these as you wish. This type, customer perspective, when you open that up, there's details, and this is the template for the story. So every time you create a new story based on the type customer perspective, the story will be populated with this information. So let's go look at that. So it says go to our stories. Fine, we'll go back to our stories. We'll choose the customer perspective option. We'll create a new story. So now we're in the stories view. You can see there's a quick switch between your various stories. You can get help here and go back to the stories menu there. You can see you selected the story type and it's populated the story text with whatever is in the template. So we can choose primary authors and then additional contributors. And from there we move into tags. So tags are what they sound like. People can follow tags. You can see every time I hover over a tag, I can follow or unfollow any tag, but these are essentially attached to both stories and story fragments, and just another way to help find specific information across the organization. It's very quick to add a new tag. Just type into the field. You can see it's not there, customer comment positive, so just click on the plus sign and it gets added. So in this case, I'll say customer and also review. So what I want to do for this story, just for the example, is look at some customer reviews of Coda. Now the next major piece of functionality is this sharing feature. So by default, all stories and all story fragments are created with full access, which means that anybody within the organization will be able to see them. If you want, you can click to change that to team, and then any team that's selected here, let's say customer experience team, anybody who's identified, any members of the organization who are identified as belonging to the customer experience team will now have access to this story. And if you want to go a step further, you can change it to personal, and then only you have access to it. Only the creator and whoever is listed in the primary author column will see it. So if you add another primary author, then they can see it as well. One feature of the Stories module is the inclusion of Google Natural Language Processing Sentiment. Each story and story fragment include an analysis of the text's sentiment, which is a Google algorithm decision about the kind of positivity or negativity of the language. And the sentiment magnitude, which is like an overall range of sentiments. So if for example, a person's comments are generally negative in tone, then they will appear as a negative score between This is between 1 and -1. And if the text has a very wide range of emotion throughout, then it will have a higher magnitude. And now we'll take a look at the story fragments in a little more detail. So go back to stories. You can see that new story is there. It's set to team. For now, we'll go over to story fragments. This page gives you access to all the fragments across the organization that are within your sharing permissions. So these parameters allow me to filter through my story fragments to find what it is I'm interested in as I'm building out my specific story. In this case, customer reviews of Coda. I'll remove any tag filtering and then add back in just those story fragments that are tagged Coda. Now scrolling down, you see the other functionality on the story fragments page. That's summary statistics. So you can see there are 20 fragments that are tagged Coda. So one story currently, this agreement that I drafted, and the average sentiment scores for the fragments that feature the tag Coda. If I expand story fragments, here they are. These are the 20 fragments that have been filtered out. Expanding the timelines, we can see when those fragments were collected. In addition, the score and magnitude, sentiment score and magnitude, are broken out on 3 different charts to show the progression of sentiment over time. So in this case, you may be able to see trends in a product or in a tag, how they're appearing and what people are saying about them in the fragments over time. And then finally, some word clouds of the filtered text. So first fragment cloud, this one is Coda's own word cloud based on the text of the fragment. And the second one is another extension of the Google Natural Language Processing pack, which creates its entities out of whatever the text is. And so because I am trying to make some statement about how customers are feeling about the product, I might further refine the type to be just customer review. You see in this case, all 20 of those fragments are tagged Coda and customer review. I've got a keyword, a key phrase I can search for here, and as well as filtering by the sentiment score and magnitude. So for example, I can choose to see only positive sentiment scores or only negative sentiment scores. So let's say I want to investigate what people are saying about version history in the customer reviews. So I might search version. And see, we're down to 1 fragment, and I can expand the details here to see what's being discussed. It's a similar structure to the stories, and you can see the content of the fragment here. So if I just do a Control F to see where it's talking about version, there it is. So this person is talking about the version history. I can go back to the fragments. And I might say, okay, well, people really aren't talking about version. Maybe they're talking about history. So I can see that there are 2 fragments discussing history. Click on the details. Well, this is the same fragment as the first one I looked at. You can see now because there are 2, I can use the next button just to switch to the next fragment. And here is the next comment. And so this is interesting. What this person's talking about is that because of the way that they structure documents, they're not getting what they need out of their browser history. So it's this other aspect of history that isn't version history. I might decide I find that interesting. What I can do is I can scroll down to this add this fragment to stories. And you can see I've already got it selected as the story type is journaling because, say, for example, I keep a journal of all these interesting little fragments I find related to the product. I can just quickly add that to that story, and it's there. And we'll see what that does later on. But that's just a quick way to be able to keep track of something that you find interesting as you're looking for something else. So going back to the fragments, you say, okay, well, we didn't really get a lot out of that, but maybe I'm going to shift gears, and I noticed that the one review was talking about collaboration. So if I put collab in, we'll see, okay, well, now we're getting a little bit more information. We get 5 generally a positive sentiment score. So maybe I want to see which of those are more positive. Okay, they're all positive. Fantastic. So let's go through some of these details. They love how collaborative the tool is. Well, maybe I want to add this one to, here's my customer reviews of Coda. This is the story that we just created. And I'm missing the description here, so I might add that now. Okay, so I'm going to add that fragment to that story. Now I can scroll through, go to the next one. Coda makes it easy to collaborate. I'll add that fragment to the story as well. Next one. So this is that same, you can see the same review we saw before, and I'm just going to see where they're saying collaborate within this document. So it's been frustrating for this person because of the way they're collaborating. So if their priority is collaborating on written docs, then Coda is the best, might not be the best option out there, they say. Well, I'm going to add that one too. And let's say we're finished now, we've got what we need. We could look at the other fragments, but for now we'll say that's good enough. What we can do now is go and check out that story. So if I click on the view button, I can expand this. Now we can see a little bit more about that story. So here's that description that I just added. So this was my template text, if you recall, so I might change this now. What are customers saying about collaborating in Coda? And now, so currently I'm working with Coda on a bug here. When I'm going to click this add to story text, and you'll see it's going to remove the formatting. But the nice thing is these ones were the reviews, the fragments that I wanted to add and wanted to use in the story. So if I click add to story text, you see it there's where it removed all that formatting. But here's the fragment added right in. So the text is added right into the story. I can take a piece out and put it in here and say that person said this, and that was from my G2 review. And if I don't want the rest, I can just delete that. Then you can see it's changed to say, well, it's already there. It's associated with this story now. So I can add the next piece. Coda makes it really easy to collaborate across departments. That's great. Put that in. And add this final one. I'm going to search again for collaborating. So I might copy this piece out and put it in. So I'm just putting my formatting back in. So now I can fill out the rest of my template. I might say, well, there are no org practices or policies. What can we do to improve the customer experience? Look into version control and history as a way of making collaboration and edits more visible. Okay, so if I'm happy with that, I can go look at some other fragments, and you can see I can add more fragments straight from here, so I don't have to go back to the original fragments table. I can do it all straight from within this story. But for now, we'll say we're good with that. So the next step is to invite people to read this story. And that's why we author stories in the first place. So I go back to the stories page, customer reviews of Coda, and I say invite readers. We get the same summary, so we can see some of the information, again, reminding ourselves that it's a team story. And now we can look at members to invite. So for now, I'm just going to invite myself. You can see the list is pretty small at the moment. And I'm going to say the reason is review, and it populates this with what a little bit of information about what the reason means. So I might say, hey Andy, take a look and let me know if you agree with my take on collaboration. Thanks, buddy. Notification type at the moment, the only one that works is notification. And so we'll choose that and we'll say send invitations. Okay, so we're kicked back out to here. But what you'll notice, you have this extra tab here called My Invitations to Read. And if I go there, I can see, oh, there it is, it popped up. So I've previously read this one story. I have this one that I've been invited to read, and I also get a little notification from within Coda. So if I'm ready to read it, then I can start reading. What I see is some more of that information about the story. I can also see the person who invited me, the reason they invited me, and this little message about why they want me to take a look in the first place. And I might decide that I think this is a really poignant statement, so I can highlight it and add a comment. And that's it. And then I might come down here and say, okay, so look into version control. And I would say, recommend sending this to our friend Haley as well for review. So if there's something else I want to add by way of another story fragment, I can do that. Or I could add in let's bring in some more info about version control. And that's it. And I might put in there AF so that the other AF knows who left that comment. And that's it. And now I can mark that as read, and it's finished here. And that's it. Now I've read it, and other Andy can go and check. And that's basically it. So really interested to see how people use this. It offers a framework for building stories that you may use to satisfy whatever purpose you need in your organization. If it's marketing, strategy, HR decisions, if it's people building out profiles, perspectives, if it's people researching, this functionality that's in here now should be able to satisfy all of those requirements. And really interested to see what kind of use cases people bring to this. So thanks. Reach out if you're interested in trying it out. I build docs like this professionally, so if you have a similar use case or something way off in left field that you want to build for your organization, please do reach out. Information's in the description below. And happy storytelling.